This is the Business Storytelling Show, a top global marketing podcast listened to in more than 100 countries, live streamed on social media, and broadcast on DBTV. Christoph Trapp chats with industry leaders to help your company tell better business stories. Here's today's episode.
Episode 666. Oh my goodness. Are we talking to the devil today? Nope, absolutely not. One of the OGs in AI. Everybody's talking about it today. Kate Bradley Chernis will join me in a second here from Try Lately. That's their Twitter handle, Lately AI. I want to throw it up at the bottom if you're watching on any of the live streams. But before we get there, I want to show you something really quickly. You might have noticed the new angle of my face. I'm so much closer to you. I'm trying to find it here. Pull it up. This is actually the Road Warrior Pro V2 Plexicam. So they sent it to me. I really appreciate it. It's kind of cool, honestly. It's like right in front of your face. Like if you do a lot of stuff on the monitor while you're talking, maybe it's not the best setup, but I don't know. The angle is kind of nice. We're going to ask Kate what she thinks of the angle, if she thinks it's better or worse. Really interested in her opinion. But anyway, we're going to talk about ethical considerations when it comes to AI. People are just, doing whatever they want to do, and it's kind of the Wild West out there. And who better to talk to than one of the OGs in AI and find out what people should do. Hey, welcome back to the show.
Hey there. It's not about the angle, Christoph, by the way.
It's not about the angle?
No,
well,
it is.
Yeah.
It is about the angle.
It's always about the angle. I kind of like it. I don't know. I mean, we'll see.
Like
it's kind of in your way. It's kind of in your way. But, you get used to it. And I guess if I'm looking into your digital eyeballs, we are good to go.
It's very Ferris Bueller, actually. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, I'm not skipping today's episode, and we're talking about ethical considerations. So first of all, why do we have to talk about this? And you know what? There's a lot of people searching for the answer to this question. And why? Why do we have to make it so difficult? What are the problems people are creating that are not necessarily ethical today?
Well, the problem is the premise. So Hollywood misdefined what artificial intelligence is. And so our expectations of what it is are based on fear. Of course, we've all seen The Terminator, for example. And that has caused, certainly panic, but just a real lack of understanding of what artificial intelligence is, and is the AI that we even have now actually true AI, or is it mostly automation? I'm going to argue that it's mostly automation in many cases, or even what machine learning really is. So there's a misunderstanding because we expect magic to be real. And I'm the biggest Harry Potter fan. I read those books every summer, every year. And I want magic to be real, and I sure am working on it, but it's not real, so R2D2 doesn't exist. I'm sorry about that. So that's I think is the biggest problem. And because we have that kind of fear-based in Hollywood, we're transferring it onto, what's now without a true understanding of like what artificial intelligence really is. And we can sort of get into some basics around there. But what I like to tell people to remember is that we're still in a if this, then that kind of matrix scenario, right? And what's beautiful about artificial intelligence is it's able to process, obviously, all that data faster than we can as humans. And so it seems like magic, but it's still, that matrix.
What's interesting to me when you just talk about that is, and AI actually, they present everything like this is it, like they're the authority. It's correct. So when people complain, Christoph, you say everything like it's correct, even when you're not. Like when you complain about me, don't even start looking at AI because it's even worse. But I think people look for the simple answer, to be honest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they just go, like when I talk to people about how do you use AI in content creation? And I use AI all day long. Different tools here and there, do this and do that and the other thing. But I never, ever go to any tools. They shall remain nameless, Jasper, for example, and say, write me an article on the 5 ways of being ethical when it comes to AI. Total garbage, right? Like it just like
Right.
what does it do? It respins something. I mean, it's like you guys, right? Like so first question you ask, hey, can we get the video from this podcast episode, right? And you're going to use this podcast footage, run it through your tool, and then use it however you use it, wherever you want to use
Right.
it. And you don't just go, hey, let me find some random B-roll and I'll split it up. I got some. Do you know what I mean? It's like the same
Yeah.
concept. So I think is that part of it? Like people just don't. I don't know. I don't want to make. I don't want to make
Well,
people are dumb, but they just
I
don't
mean,
get it. I
people are
guess.
lazy, number one. That's what you're
Okay.
keying into. And we are too. Everybody wants the easiest path to whatever. I mean, of course we do. That's natural because we have better things to do, right? I get that. But Harvard Business Review actually wrote an article recently featuring both Jasper and Lately as leaders in what they call collaborative AI. So collaborative AI is when humans are part of the process, training the AI, nudging it along the way. And the reason this is so valuable, there's the ethical component, but more importantly is the ROI. So their study showed that the ROI of AI alone um, versus humans collaborating with AI, the humans collaborating beat it 2 to 7x every time, right? So there's more than an ethical reason for this kind of collaboration to happen. And I'm going to define collaboration real quick. You need to be able to analyze the results that the AI spits out to you for the reasons you just actually said, because the AI is dumb. It needs a human to train it. And I want to sort of double click here on that perspective so people can really understand. Um, Humans, like if you think of AI as a human for a moment, it's about 3 months old on the lifespan. And if you imagine a 3 month old is 100% reliant upon other humans to survive and thrive. It can't feed itself, defend itself. It can't even sit up straight, right? So AI is the same way. Now, the fascinating thing to me, Christoph, is that this ability to analyze what results come from AI and then course correct them is happens to be in this period of our lives the number one skill set that we as humans lack, because we've been taught over the last 3 decades to not bring not to not identify problems, but to bring people solutions. And so employers are complaining about this. It's a global phenomenon where they can't find employees who have really solid analytic skills. You think about just even Google. We were talking about teenage daughters earlier. My friends' kids, they know they can ask AI, they know they can Google anything, but they don't know what to ask.
That is well. First of all, they. I don't agree that kids can Google anything because I'm plenty of times in the vehicle with my kids and they'll ask me something and I have to like while I'm driving I have to think about it. It's crazy, right? I'm like just Google it or use Perplexity AI. So by the way, maybe I misheard it, but I've heard that thing, and I'm a young Gen Xer. So everybody who takes me to task that I have the millennial pause when I do a TikTok, thank you for saying I look younger, but I am a young Gen Xer, barely. And um, so you said companies want people to bring them solutions. And then you mentioned earlier, totally not connected, we're all lazy, and we are. I actually think bosses who run around and say, bring me a solution, don't bring me a problem, like they're kind of lazy because they don't want to
Mhm.
collaborate. They don't want to talk about it. I'm like, I don't have time to talk and I don't have time for stuff either. But do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yes.
why are people bringing the problem to the boss? It's not, I mean, maybe it is to throw it over the wall for some, but a lot of times it's like, hey, I'm stuck with this. Can we collaborate? And they're like, well, don't bring me a problem. They're just lazy.
They are. I mean, people, this is a rule that we have in my company, which is we call it the 3/4 of the rule. Get me 3/4 of the way there. So if you identify a problem, it's your job really to fix it or get it fixed to deliver, right? And then to do it in a way that, like you said, doesn't throw it over the wall to me and makes me feel as though like if I have to put my eyeball on it in any way, make it really easy for me to do that. So you're doing most of the work, and then I'm just giving you a couple tips, to move on with. So that's also about asking forgiveness versus asking for permission. And it's something. we touch on, like, I have to remind the staff every once in a while, it's part of being a team player too, because you don't want to just, like you said, throw your neighbor a bag of junk. Like that's not any way to incur favor. And because we all work from home now, it's more important than ever to behave, um, in this way.
Yeah, you have to. But let's get, I mean, interesting topic. We could probably do a whole nother episode on that. But let's talk about what are some of the ethical things we have to talk about. And one thing I wrote about way back when is you have to disclaim when you use AI. And so I was thinking
Mm.
about that topic again. And I'm like, when I wrote that article, I was actually thinking about some of those tools where you literally just create from scratch
Mhm.
without any source content. But you guys don't do that. I don't do that. um, like even I use other tools for this show. I give them source content. So I don't know. Do I really need to disclose that I used Lately AI to get video clips for my podcast? Who cares whether I did it myself or the software did it? Or do you know what I mean? Like there's different
Yeah.
levels, right,
I
to think
mean,
about.
I think it's like this. If you come over to my house for dinner and I made a cake from a cake in a box, do I have to tell you that I didn't make it from scratch? No. Of course I don't. That is totally silly. Um, I with us, we're not a large language model. You're using our math to put on your data. So we have a different um, kind of set of ethical, I guess, set of rules that would apply to us or not apply to us. Um, because most people, like we said, are lazy, God bless us, and are using AI to cheat, which is what's happening for the most part. That's where I think the ethical question comes in. They're trying to pass off somebody's work as their own. Very much, this is like Cliff Notes. Okay, so I'm Gen X too. For the Tracy's in the room, Cliff Notes is when you would there would be these little books that would summarize all the classic great books of the world, like Moby Dick, etc. And instead of reading all of Moby Dick, you would read Cliff Notes because it would be shorter and faster and summarize it. And it would include all these essays that are most likely the essays that the teacher would ask you to write about any different topic. And so people would copy them for the most part. But the thing is, the teacher has the Cliff Notes too. So like they would immediately know. And this is the case very much for generative AI now, right? So if both you and I typed in the same prompt to ChatGPT or Jasper or anywhere else, we'll get the same results because there's no possible way it could understand my data, my audience. Like there's no access to that information, so it's got to give you that kind of generic response. So I mean, I think that the AI question comes here. Like if you're trying to pass it off on your own, then there is an ethical response. But I think it's pretty easy. Like we just put some kind of speedometer, or when you buy food, there's the whole FDA, list of what's in the product. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If we could have that for AI, like what percentage of this was written by a human or AI or collaborative humans, or what was quoted from U.S. World and News article, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of quoting anything, anyways. Like, just tell your own story. I mean, like, if the time of curation is over, to be quite frank, in my opinion. Um, I actually
Wait, what do
got
you
a
mean
book.
by that? What do you mean by that?
Like the Drudge Report. Like, they just
Oh
I
yeah.
don't even know if they still exist, but like they just have like links to other stuff. I'm like, if that's your model, especially as a company, just like link to other people's stuff. Like, good luck. Like you're not a thought leader, you're a link collector or whatever. Like I link to other people too, but it's very specific and it's not like my main bread and butter. It's
Right.
like it's when I see a good podcast, sometimes I link to it, and I mean, but very rarely if you think about it. Now you threw me off what I was going to say. Now, first of all, if you invite me over and you tell me you're going to make bake cake, and if that's what you say, I do want to know that you made it and not bought it. So,
You
so,
do.
so the devil is in the details, right? Like
Back to the
depending on
devil.
how you, well, you right 666, like maybe who are talking to the devil. No, haha, just kidding, just kidding. Um,
Wait, I've got a story for you about cake,
yeah,
real quick. So
go.
I think this is so fascinating. When Betty Crocker released Cake in a Box, they were the first to do it. It was the 50s. They were marketing to housewives, and it didn't sell very well because the housewives were like, "I didn't bake this cake. This is totally weird and bizarre." And what they did was they took the powdered eggs out, and so their slogan became "Just add an egg." And then it sold like hotcakes because the wives felt like they actually baked something, that a roll, right? And I parallel this idea with AI, because this goes back to that collaborative AI we were talking about. When humans have a role in automation, in technology in general, that fear that we were talking about, that tends to go away, number one. But then also, as we said, that's when the collaboration is when you see the high performance, the same way with cake in a box as with collaborative AI.
Sorry, I was on the wrong screen because what I was doing is I was pulling up. That's a good example,
Devil's
but
food cake, were you
this
pulling up that?
I was pulling up the cake, yeah.
The cake, yeah. That's
But
my favorite flavor.
so the reason what I was doing is Christian Alama, he was on the show and he talks about that example specifically in his book, Start
Oh,
with a
really?
Story,
Hi,
and
Christian.
he talks about the narrative economy. Um, so it's absolutely correct. Now, I still don't remember what the original question I was going to ask you is, but
Oh,
how do
sorry.
you get companies? So it's very interesting to me because companies are like all over the place, right? They're like when social media first came out, they were like, you can't talk about like these 59 things, and then people just stopped using it altogether. And then you got some companies who say you can't use AI, and but it's kind of like saying you can't use AI. It's kind of like saying you can't use a pen, right? I mean,
Right.
how
Yeah,
many
it's silly.
versions of pen are there? So how do you kind of, as a company and with your teams, how do you move forward and make sure there are some guidelines, there are some rules? Now here's the story. Before you answer that, here's my story.
Okay.
You can actually tell what's written by AI because I read this book over the weekend and it had delve in it. Delve, 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 delve. And even though that might be a very common word in the British English side of the world, I've never seen that word until AI came around, and now it's all over the place. And
Interesting.
then the other thing is AI, if you don't edit and if you don't especially interrogate it, which I do very well, like,
Mhm.
no, do this better. This sucks, or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, it backs into sentences, right? Like it says, because the sky is blue, Christoph likes to be outside.
Right,
Instead of
right.
saying Christoph likes to be outside because he enjoys the blue sky, right?
'Cause
Like
it's
it's totally a
freezing.
giveaway. And the other thing is, if you don't watch out, AI loves bulleted lists. So if it's like bulleted list, like that's AI, 100%. Even if you have source content, right? So you have to edit.
It's true.
Um, but my
So you
question still remains: how do you go ahead?
Yeah, so you can smell it a mile away, absolutely, and the people who can't are not too bright, and what's sad about that is, and that's not that's again a remark on society, like sort of going way back here. The fact that generative AI has been the boom that it has been is a real spotlight on how poor we are at communicating. This is writing, basic writing skills, right? How to get people to do what you want them to do, which is all communication. People are so bad at it that they would rather just, type a couple of prompts and have it all done for them, which is um, a shame, frankly, Um, and I think this is where I think about a calculator, for example. I'm not good at math. I was a fiction writing major, and I was sort of tortured by my algebra teachers, but I know how to do basic division, obviously, and long division, and I have to go to the internet to helping me with percent calculations, stuff like that. But I remember my teacher saying, you can't know if the calculator is right if you don't have the basics in front of you, because of human error, especially, right? And so when you're typing something in the calculator and you get the sum or the equal of whatever it is, I'm quickly doing a check in my own mind, be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's right, right? And that's the skill that you need to have with AI, with writing, with like anytime you're relying on technology to do something with you, you still have to have this ability to check to see if it's right. This is why, by the way, self-driving cars like aren't really a thing, because there's so many variables that the machine, that the AI would have to understand and make a judgment on, that only a human still has that capability, because there's not only enough data, for the AI to know in the past, but not enough patterns of the same variables, because there's so many endless number of variables, right?
I liken it to Steady Lamine, who's in the market research space, and we're going to give him a shout out here on LinkedIn. By the way, if you want to leave comments, you got a couple minutes to do it live on the show. And after that, you can leave them just as a comment and we can respond later on. But Citi said that, a lot of people are now using AI in market research. And he says, and that's fine and great. But if you don't know what good market research looks like,
Right.
how do you know that whatever AI just gave you is good market research? So it's kind of the same example, except actually with AI, what you said with the calculator. So you still have to have that base knowledge, but how are people going to get the base knowledge in whatever it is they're doing, whether it's running a business or even, anything. You can use AI for anything. How do you get that if you think you don't have to get it because you can just use AI?
Yeah, well, that's that skills set that we're looking for, the analytics skill set that's missing. But there is a shift now of understanding, hey, save time is great. Everybody wants to save time, but make money is better. And that's what, I love the Salesforce ads, ask more of your AI. So we should all be asking more of the AI. Is saving time enough? Social media is a great example. If you're just pushing out content for the sake of pushing out content and it's not actually doing anything for you, what are you doing? And that is the case for most social media managers. They want to go home and grab some lunch. They don't care. But their boss is on the line for higher performance. And so it's up to the boss, the CMO, whoever they are, to make sure that the AI managers, digital social media managers, whoever they are actually creating content that's effective. So that effectiveness is this new wave. People are starting to cotton on, okay, AI, you're not exactly what we thought you were. We still love it. Love you. Life is easier. Thank you so much. But now we want more.
What's interesting about the whole effectiveness comment too is like sometimes when you say that, or when people say that, they think to slow down. And when you look at the people who actually made a career out of content and driving performance with content, like they're not always like a sweat house of podcast episodes, for example, or blog posts, but they always keep going. Even if you look at some of the experts who say that same thing, they have a new book out every year and a half. And the reason they have a new book out is because they know it works for them. People buy it. It keeps establishing them as a leader, whatever it might be. Always great to have you on the show. I think it was the third time. It's been maybe a couple hundred episodes since we last saw each other. Last 60 seconds or so, tell us who should reach out, who should connect, who should use your platform. And thanks for joining me. Nice to see you.
I love you. Thank you so much. Anybody who wants to learn exactly the words that will make people do what they want them to do should reach out to me, because that's the business I'm in and I do it really well.
Thanks for tuning in. Please rate and review the Business Storytelling Show on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe